you.
Take over the call.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you everyone. My obeisance to each all of you. Vanchakalpatarupesha Kupasandu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. I'll start with brief prayers and then we can continue. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Budhiyayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Agnanatimirantasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. I'm thankful for this opportunity to share whatever I understand and with my limited realization. Also, I seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas who are on the call so that we can discuss Krishna Kada to please Krishna and to benefit each one of us to whatever limited extent we can by the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll start my sharing of my screen. Let me see. Yeah, so I request devotees as we go through this presentation, if I make any mistakes, please correct my understanding and conceptions so that way I can also grow in bhakti. And also if you have something wonderful points to share in connection with the same topic, because this topic is very foundational, fundamental, yet can be looked at so many different angles. So please feel free to add your comments to enrich the discussion also. So let me go through. We'll go through what we'll do is we'll read the verse, translation, purport, and then we'll discuss some of the angles of that. And then I'll leave it for discussion so that other angles can be explored also as needed. Now we'll go through the verse. We're in the 7th canto, 2nd chapter, 41st verse. Bhutani taistair nijiyoni karma bher bhavanti kale na bhavanti sarvasaha na tatra hatma prakritavapi stitas tasya gunair anyatamo hi bhadyate. The translation. So the only reason coloring is there for easily to capture the essence of the translation. That's the only intent of the coloring. Every conditioned soul receives a different type of body according to his work. And when the engagement is finished, the body is finished. Although the spirit soul is situated in subtle and gross material bodies in different forms of life, is not bound by them, for is always understood to be completely different from the manifested body. So these are two aspects of the verse. We'll explore it after reading the purport by Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada writes a wonderful purport. We can pay attention to what is Srila Prabhupada emphasizing repeatedly in the verse, in the purport, so that way we can explore what is Prabhupada wanting us to learn from this verse. What is he highlighting us? We can notice. He's saying, here it is very plainly explained that God is not responsible for the living entities accepting different types of bodies. Okay. Always, I notice many times the beginning of the purport and the end of the purport are usually very, very important and very, very potent to understand the essence of the whole purport. Of course, that doesn't minimize the rest of the purport, but I'm just highlighting that so we can pay attention to that while we're reading. So Prabhupada is saying God is not responsible for the living entities accepting different types of bodies. He explains further. One has to accept a body according to the laws of nature and one's own karma. Therefore, the Vedic injunction is that a person engaged in material activities should be given directions by which he can intelligently apply his activities to the service of the Lord. Why? To become free from the material bondage of repeated birth and death. Prabhupada is quoting Bhagavatam verse, Swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. We'll discuss about this verse also. The Lord is always ready to give directions. So far what did Prabhupada say? That God is not responsible for our taking different bodies, and we are responsible, and different bodies are determined based on laws of nature and by our own karma. And then we can change our activities, material activities, to spiritual activities by following the directions of the Supreme Lord. Now somebody say, how do you get directions from Supreme Lord? He's saying Lord is always ready to give directions, not that he's holding back. Now, where are those directions? Indeed, these directions are elaborately given in Bhagavad Gita. So we don't have to say, oh, Arjuna was so fortunate, he could directly hear from Krishna. But I'm not so fortunate, I cannot hear from Krishna. So Prabhupada addresses commonly this aspect. So Bhagavad Gita already has directions given by Krishna, personally for all our benefit, not just Arjuna. Then what do we need to do? If we take advantage of these directions, then in spite of our being conditioned by the laws of material nature, even though we are conditioned currently, we shall become free to attain our original constitution. Prabhupada is quoting another verse from 7th chapter, 14th verse. Mahameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. Davi Yesha Gurmayi, that is the verse is referring to. We'll discuss this also briefly. We should have firm faith. So far he discussed, we are responsible and we need to follow Lord's directions to change our activities from material to spiritual. And the directions are given by Supreme Lord in Bhagavad Gita. And just by following the directions, we can achieve success or constitutional position. Now he's saying, how do you follow that instructions properly? He's saying, we should have firm faith that the Lord is supreme. And if we surrender to him, he will take charge of us and indicate how we can get out of material life and return home back to Godhead. So we'll discuss this also in detail. So basically saying we should have firm faith that Supreme Lord is supreme. And if you just surrender and do what he says, following his directions, then I'll get you success for sure. What is the success? Going back to Godhead, like the Prabhupada is defining in this purport. Without such surrender, one is obliged to accept a certain type of body according to his karma. So he's emphasizing what he started with in the purport. Sometimes as an animal, sometimes as a demigod, and so on. Although the body is obtained and lost in due course of time, that means describing how body is temporary in nature, that spirit soul does not actually mix with the body, but is subjugated by the particular modes of nature with which he is sinfully associated. Spiritual education changes one's consciousness so that one simply carries out the orders of Supreme Lord and becomes free from the influence of the modes of material nature. Interestingly, the spiritual education Prabhupada is referring to is not just giving us knowledge and knowing the directions from Bhagavad Gita what to do or how to do. Not only that, it is also giving us faith to believe in the Supreme and faith to follow the instructions sincerely and seriously. That's the point Prabhupada is making in the last sentence of the purport. So if you want to summarize this purport, essentially Prabhupada is elaborating on the verse that we are not this body, we are spirit soul, and the different types of bodies that we get is dependent on what we do in this life based on our karma. And we are awarded different types of body based on laws of nature. Understanding that what I do in this life will give me a body accordingly in the next life, and what I do in this life will help me to achieve the spiritual success ultimately. We should follow the directions of the Supreme Lord by reading scriptures like Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavatam. And then through that, we gain faith in Supreme, faith in the instructions of Supreme Lord, and then we can sincerely apply those instructions in our life. That's how we can become free from the modes of nature, and that's where we can be seated in our constitutional position of being servant of Supreme Lord, engaged in pure devotion service. That is the essence of this whole purport. So obviously we can go in different directions. So we'll start with some brief context, how we got here, especially when we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam in detail, like all of you are nicely doing every day, hearing one or more verses and reading them. It's important to keep the bigger picture. What is Srimad Bhagavatam? What is this particular canto? What is this particular chapter? Who is speaking to whom? Why is it important for me to listen to this? That context is important. With that understanding, we'll explore the context a little bit. So before going into this particular verse and chapter context, we know Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to Parishad Maharaj. So of course, Srimad Bhagavatam was repeated by many other people like Sutta Goswami to say of Naimsaranya, like that also we know. But the original context of giving Srimad Bhagavatam by Sukadeva Goswami to Parishad Maharaj was so that Parishad Maharaj will be absorbed in Krishna before the end of his life, so that he can attain success in this life. That was the overall purpose of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Now coming to the 7th canto itself. Remember, in the 2nd canto, many of you might remember in the 10th chapter, I believe, there is a first verse, I think, that talks about that there are 10 topics in Srimad Bhagavatam. So out of those 10 topics, they go like Sarga, Visarga, Poshanam, like that, different 10 aspects are given. The start with Sarga means primary creation, secondary creation, protection of the Lord, and then inclination. So this 7th canto deals with one of those 10 topics which are required for a Mahapurana, especially that needs to have these 10 topics. So obviously, each of these cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam has coverage from all the 10 topics. Let me stop sharing and I'll come back to this. So each of these 10 topics are described in each of the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. However, Jiva Goswami describes that there is some prominence of one of these topics in each of the cantos. So in the 7th canto, the prominence is about the topic of uti or inclination. So the uti or inclination is of two types is described. One is auspicious inclination and inauspicious inclination. So what does this word inclination mean? This is very closely tied to the tendencies. That means I want to do this, I want to do that. That is called inclination. So Swanti Canto is describing for us what is the result, how does the auspicious inclination look like, how does the inauspicious inclination look like, by describing the example of Prahlad Maharaj, by describing example of Hiranyakashipu. Yeah, I think Sukasakar Mata is also indicating impetus. Yeah, that's a nice point. Yeah, impetus also is another word to use for this. Impetus. That means impetus means something driving us to do something like that. So auspicious inclination and inauspicious inclination. So the overall canto is talking about these two aspects, especially the first several chapters of this 7th canto is giving the whole story of Prahlad Maharaj and his teachings. That's describing how when somebody gets the mercy of devotee, pure devotee like Narada Muni, which Prahlad Maharaj got while he was in the womb of his mother, then how does it activities look like with auspicious inclinations? How does it activity look like? And what does it result in? It resulted in, we know Prahlad Maharaj acted in pure devotion service, always engaging in Shravanam and Smaranam especially. And then he went back to spiritual world. That is one case study being presented in seventh canto. Another case study being presented in seventh canto is parallelly Hiranyakashipu. How, with the inauspicious inclination he received, of course, started with the curse of Kumaras that we discussed in third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Curse of Kumaras, while they were in Jaya Vijaya, they got 3 different lifetimes before they go back to spiritual and positive service. So, in this case, Hiranyakashipu, because of his inauspicious inclinations, he engaged in inauspicious activities that we already discussed in this chapter also. You might have heard, you have read and heard about it. Second chapter itself. How he's trying to get rid of Brahmanical culture, how he's trying to be enemy of Vishnu himself, like that we heard. And through that, he was finally led to death in the hands of the Supreme Lord. So that's the two parallel things are being discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto. Another broad aspect to describe in 7th canto is, there are two broad sections. First section is describing Prahlad Maharaj and his pure devotion service. And the later section, where Nadmani is speaking this, most of this to Yudhishthira Maharaj, describes how if somebody does mixed devotion. What does mixed devotion mean? That means pure devotion mixed with some karma, some jnana, or some yoga. How does it look like? What will happen to such people? How do they do practice it, devotion service like that? That Nadmani describes by describing about Varnashma principles. So that's about the overall 7th canto. Now, we'll go into the how did the 7th canto start and how did we end up here briefly, so that we can remember that context now. Go into in the end of the 6th canto, Diti was the mother of Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, was angry when her 2 sons were killed by Lord Vishnu. And she thought Lord Vishnu took this action because Indra instigated him, like that. That means now that Diti's anger is described in the end of the towards the end of the 6th canto, not exactly last chapter, but couple of chapters before. And then this 7th canto started with Parikshit Maharaj asking about for our benefit, not that he is thinking, he got a doubt. Oh, is Lord partial to demigods? He is not getting the doubt. But pure devotees clarify for the benefit of conditioned souls like us, so that we get the right picture always. So he's asking question to Sukadeva Goswami about, is Lord partial to demigods? That's why he took the side of Indra and he killed demons like that. Like that, he started a question. And then Sukadeva Goswami wonderfully explains about Lord's impartial nature. Of course, we already covered this chapter. So I'll summarize briefly the whole theme of that chapter, which is continuing actually in the next few chapters also, in a sense, through examples and case study. So overall, his answer goes like this. Supreme Lord is transcendental. That means he's beyond the modes of material nature. So only if somebody is in modes of nature, something, he will see somebody as friend, somebody is enemy, is affected. Oh, if I do nice to him, he will give nice to me, he'll be nice to me, like that. That thought process and that influence will come of modes of nature. But Supreme Lord is beyond the influence of modes of nature. So there's no possibility the Supreme Lord is seeing favorably to one and unfavorably to one in a broad picture, as a super soul, for example. Now, at the same time, he is naturally reciprocal in nature. Etama prapadyante, that verse we hear from Bhagavatam, right? Tam sadhisva vajamyam. So that means somebody, let's say somebody treats me as a friend, then I'll treat him as a friend. I'll reciprocate accordingly. Somebody treats me as enemy, I reciprocate as enemy, like that. Basically, first aspect is Supreme Lord is treating everybody like a super soul, just observing, witnessing, and then granting whatever they desire according to what they deserve. That's the first level of understanding of Supreme Lord's nature. Second level of understanding Supreme Lord nature is is reciprocal in nature. Not only is neutral, but is reciprocal. That means somebody is reciprocating with him nicely, like a devotee who takes shelter of him, who seeks protection from him. He gives the protection. Somebody wants to fight like enemy, he give a fight to him, like Hiranyakashipu. So that's the second level of understanding. That is reciprocal to how we are approaching him. Okay, that is the second. Beyond that, Sukadeva Goswami explains, actually, even though demons want to be enemy, demons don't want to be nice to Supreme Lord, but Supreme Lord is merciful to even them also. Even when Supreme Lord is killing them, is actually giving them mercy. So that's how they get liberation after the killing by Supreme Lord. So that is giving you magnanimous nature of Supreme Lord, not just neutral Supreme as Super Soul, not just reciprocal based on what we do, he will do accordingly. But beyond that, how is very merciful to the devotee, to everybody, including demons also, like that. That's how he went to the elaborate nature, elaborate explanation. And then to prove that or to illustrate that, to explain that further, he goes to case studies from conversation between Yudhishthira Maharaj and Narada Muni. And this conversation happened when Yudhishthira Maharaj was doing the Rajasuya sacrifice after the Mahabharata war. So then he explains how during that time when Krishna was elected as the chief of the ceremony and he was being worshipped and glorified by everybody, Shishpala was blaspheming like anything. But then Krishna killed him, and even though Shishpala was a demon criticizing Krishna, he entered the body of Krishna. That means he achieved liberation, one kind of liberation. That's what he describes. But then Yudhishthira Maharaj seeing that, wow, how is this possible? He asked Narada Muni a question. That's how that conversation starts between Narada Muni and Yudhishthira Maharaj, which goes through the entire seventh canto. So Narada Muni explains, actually, how could Shishpala get such a great liberation? Because of by explaining how absorbing Krishna somehow or other is so glorious. If you just absorb in Krishna somehow or other, then we'll get the favorable destination, we'll get the highest destination. Like that, Narada Muni describes. Of course, impetus for us from this and lesson for us from this is not to absorb like Swishpala, we should criticize Krishna. That is not the lesson to take, but we should be favorably be disposed. Anukuli Anna Krishna Anushilnam. We should be favorably disposed towards Krishna, and if we favorably cultivate that mind being absorbed in Krishna, how much great benefit we can achieve, how much we can situate in Krishna's pure devotion service easily. That is a lesson we can take from there. So he, in that context, while Narada Muni was explaining glory of absorption in Krishna, when explaining about Shishpala, how he got liberation, he mentions that actually they were formerly Jaya and Vijaya in the spiritual world in Vaikunta, and they took three different lives. And in this life, there is Shishpala and Dantavakra in this yuga. Then, like that, he mentions. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj catches it, and Yudhishthira Maharaj wants to know more detail. So this is how we are getting more and more Krishna Katha actually. He wants to know about the fall of Jaya and Vijaya. And when he hears about the fall of Jaya and Vijaya, he's asking that question. Then Narada Muni describes very briefly how Jaya Vijaya took three births, and then in one of the births, one of them was Hiranyakashipu, and then he was trying to kill his own son, but then his son was a pure devotee. So the Supreme Lord came and personally protected him, that pure devotee. Like that he explains. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj asks another question to know about how is it that father and son are enemies to each other? How is that Hiranyakashipu is enemy of his own son Prahlad? How did Prahlad, being a son of a demon, how did he become a great devotee? Like that he asks. That's where the second chapter starts with the background of how did Hiranyakashipu become enemy of Prahlad. That means why Hiranyakashipu is treating Prahlad like enemy. To explain that, he starts to explain actually Hiranyakashipu became enemy of Vishnu first. And because Prahlad is favorable to Vishnu, that's why Hiranyakashipu became enemy of Prahlad also. That is the line of story he is going towards. That means Hiranyakashipu is the enemy of Prahlad because Prahlad is worshipping Hiranyakashipu's enemy, which is Lord Vishnu. But how did Hiranyakashipu become enemy of Lord Vishnu? That's where the second chapter started, which is how when his brother Hiranyaksha was killed in Varaha Rupa form of Supreme Lord, that's when this Hiranyaksha was killed and Hiranyakashipu became very, very angry on Vishnu. So we'll go through furthermore. And he gave orders to destroy Brahmanical culture, thinking that he's going to kill Vishnu. That's a misconception that demons can think like that he can kill Vishnu also. Then, after expressing that his anger like that and starting terrible activities to destroy Brahmanical culture, then as a relative, he starts to console his mother Diti and the widowed wife of Hiranyaksha. So we are in that particular section where Hiranyakashipu in this chapter gave the philosophy of soul, like we hear about in Bhagavad Gita second chapter, how this body is temporary, how the soul is eternal, don't lament, nothing happened to his soul, only body is affected. Like that, he started with giving some philosophy, Hiranyakashipu. And then always giving examples and past history will always uh, give the essential lessons it brings to life for most of us. So that's why he starts to narrate two stories. So we are in the first story right now in this context. So he starts to narrate a story of a king Suyagna, and King Suyagna died uh, untimely. That means sooner than after becoming very very old like that. So he died. King Suyagna died. And then his queens were so attached to King Suyagna that they're lamenting so much for him. So, of course, many speakers already spoke how lamentation and grief is very natural when somebody related to us, somebody we love, he departs from this world. But they had very, very excessive attachment for the king, so much so that they did not see the eternality of the soul, so much so that they did not see how can we benefit him. He left this body, how can we benefit that soul? They did not think about that. They were thinking about, oh my God, oh, he left away like that. And because of that attachment, they couldn't do what is good for the soul also. Meaning, they were holding on to the body without get without giving permission for funeral rites or the last rites to be done, which we heard from other speakers that how they are important for the soul to go back to the next body, like they're already in these sessions, right? So that's where we learn the lesson of how attachment to our own family members or our own loved ones can also be harmful to our attached ones. That is hard to understand usually, but through this we can easily understand. So how when we are attached too much to our loved ones, we don't do what is best for them. So of course, through this, we can also see how we can transform the material attachment to spiritual attachment through devotion service. That's the way we can do best for the other person that we love so much. We're attached so much like that. So that's why we convert through devotion service. We see them as spiritual beings, as part and parcel of Krishna, servants of Krishna, and our role as facilitating their journey towards Krishna as much as our journey towards Krishna, we are trying to progress through devotion service. We help others through our actions and our influence somehow so that they can go closer to Krishna. So that's another lesson we can learn how material attachment is actually causing harm to others. But the same thing with bhakti, we can transform to spiritual attachment. We can help others to grow in their relationship with Krishna. Then, at that time when the queens are lamenting so much, we heard how Yamaraja personally comes as a young boy. And we heard Prithvilasini Mataji describing nicely the reasons why he comes as a young boy like that. Because people are appealed to listening easily. Like that we heard, one of the reasons. And another reason we heard about how Yamaraja was attracted to help some of the devotees, some of the queens of Kings Yagna who were devotees. And Yamadutas could not approach devotees. Remember, we heard in the 6th canto beginning about Ajamila pastime. Yamadutas were not meant to go to any devotee's place at all. So that's why Yamaraja came, we heard from Prithivila Mataji. And then Yamaraja, as a small boy, is narrating these two stories now. Started with King Suyagna story. So before he expresses this, so the story is continuing. Hiranyakasipu started the story. Within the story, Yamaraja is coming as small boy. So I'm giving a quick recap of few verses because these few verses are describing the philosophical aspects and the continuation of what we're going to read today, what we read today just now. Yeah, that's why I'm going through these verses very briefly only. So Yamaraja starts to express, oh my God, I'm a small boy. These are very, very big adults. These queens are big adults. They've seen so many people dying in their life. They have so much experience in life. Still, they're lamenting for the body. That is how he starts. And then he expresses his firm belief that Supreme Lord will protect. Because Supreme Lord protected me when I was in the womb of my mother. So he'll protect us. Wherever we go, he'll protect us for sure. And then in the 39th verse, he talks about how only because of Supreme Lord will, everything can happen. Like whole material creation, maintenance, annihilation is happening by his will. And because his Supreme Lord is completely competent. If he wants, he can destroy everything. If he wants, he can protect anything and everything. So he's supreme and independent. So no one can question his activities. Because he's supreme, he can do whatever he wants. Like that he talked about. So Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe. One devotee was giving class was talking about that also. You might remember, recollect. So if Krishna wants to protect, nobody can save them, hurt them. And when Krishna wants to kill somebody, nobody can save them like that. Now, to illustrate this point of Supreme Lord's high supremacy, that whatever he wants will rule, whatever he desires will happen. He gives two examples in the last verse we discussed yesterday. Chakravarti Prabhuji. The two examples were given was somebody might leave money in the middle of the road, crossroad where everybody is going, everybody is walking, middle of the bazaar. But still, if Supreme Lord protection is there, nobody will see that. Even if somebody sees that, nobody will take it. But and when we go back, we'll find it again. But on the contrary, if Supreme Lord's protection is not there, I might keep my money safely under the bed or in the locker. But still, thieves will come away and take it away. Well, that is one example given. Then second example given is if somebody is in the forest, jungle, then even though there's nobody else to protect them, but still they'll be protected by from the wild animals, for example, by Supreme Lord if his protection is there. But if somebody is inside the home, well protected with a security alarm system and everything, but still, if Supreme Lord's protection is there, he might die untimely. So these two examples is giving to show how everything is dependent on the Supreme Lord's will. So now when we understand that, when you understand Supreme Lord's supremacy like this, which is continued to today's verse also, then our only duty is to surrender to the Supreme Lord and then seek his protection. That's our only duty. That will come through more in this verse, today's verse. So now, if you notice, Yamaraja as a boy told Supreme Lord is supreme, everything happens by his will. So if he wants to protect, he will protect. If he wants to destroy, he will destroy. Now somebody may think, oh, okay, that means Krishna is killing somebody, Krishna is favoring somebody. Again, the impartiality question is coming into picture. Oh, Krishna is not equal to everybody, like that somebody may think. So Vishwanath Thakur nicely writes in this verse, a commentary, that is in the 41st verse that we are reading today. He basically says to address this question of inequality, of somebody may think, oh, he favors this boy, favors in unfavor, ignores this guy, that's why he's lost like that. He's saying Supreme Lord as Paramatma is situated in every body and then is not bound by qualities of the body like birth and death like that. And Paramatma as a neutral personality, like we discussed in the beginning of when we describing about the essence of these 4 chapters, especially first chapter theme, Paramatma makes the jiva experience the result of his own bad and good karmas. That means Paramatma is not favoring this person, that person like this. Based on whatever jiva has done in the past, this life or past lives, based on his past karma, he will sanction his own karma as an experience to them by being present as super soul. That's so. That is his favoring and ignoring, not whimsically. Oh, I love him. Let me give him chocolates. I don't love him. Let me give suffering. Not like that. So that's the point Vishwanath Thakur is highlighting in this particular verse. Okay, that's the overall context to describe how we are responsible, and Supreme Lord is impartial, and Supreme Lord is wonderful, and if we depend on Supreme Lord, we can also be protected like that. Now, going through some more details of the translation. Please forgive me, I'm new to PowerPoint presentations, so I made whatever I can because I heard that sometimes visuals will help some devotees to observe. That is why I started this. So basically, the purport has 2 points that we were discussing. The translation has 2 points we were discussing. One is we are responsible and we receive a different body according to the work we do right now and what work we have done in the past. Those two determine what is the next body for us. That is number 1 point. Number 2, soul is completely different from the body that we are in right now. Those are the 2 highlights of the translation. Purport, we already discussed briefly the purport, but I put it in this form so it's easy to see. The 2 main themes, one main theme presented in 2 different ways by Prabhupada to emphasize the point. Okay, one is saying how God is not responsible for our getting different kinds of bodies or for whatever is happening to us. We are only responsible based on our karma, based on what we are doing, we are responsible, like that is coming. Now, remember, because of our what we are doing in this body, we are creating the next body we discussed, right? That means we'll be roaming around in the different bodies in the birth and the death cycle in this material world, unless we do something. So that's why Prabhupada is telling us that if we keep on doing material activity, we're roaming in the birth and death cycle. But if you take the directions of the Supreme Lord from Bhagavad Gita, for example, and Srimad Bhagavatam, then we can intelligently apply those directions to do our activities properly to serve the Supreme Lord. And because of this intelligence we gain through directions from scripture, from Krishna, when we do our activities as a service to Krishna, then we can achieve the success, which is becoming free from material bondage and situating in our original constitutional position as servant of Krishna. That is the one theme Prabhupada described, one theme in this way, in the first part of the purport. Same theme expressed in different way in the second part of purport, Prabhupada is discussing like this. Prabhupada is saying, as a soul, we are different from body, but we are influenced by modes of nature. Actually, Hiranyakashipu philosophy in this chapter itself was discussing that point, that how we misidentify with the material body. That's why we enjoy or suffer like that. So, similarly, soul is subjected by modes of material nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, like that. And by spiritual education, what does spiritual education means? That in the previous section of the purport, Prabhupada was talking about how by understanding the directions of Krishna, by learning the directions of Krishna, by applying the directions of Krishna, like that. By that spiritual education, knowing, then we can transform our consciousness so that we not only know what Krishna wants us to do, but we get the faith to wanting to do what Krishna wants us to do. That means we know what is good, but to do what is good, we need to get the motivation, and that motivation comes through hearing from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. I think Prithvi Vilas Mataji also talked about this point. How by cultivating the knowledge with the guidance from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, we can actually transform our consciousness, and through that we can transform our activities, and then we can serve the Supreme Lord like that, That's how we can achieve the success again. We can become free from the influence of the three modes like that. This is the last sentence of the whole purport. Okay, there's a Prabhupada expressing purport in this way. Now, remember I mentioned that we'll deep dive into this particular sentence that Prabhupada writes in the purport. We should have firm faith that Lord is supreme, and that if we surrender to Him, He will take charge of us and indicate how we can get out of material life and return home back to Godhead. Notice, if we develop firm faith that Lord is supreme, that means He is ultimate, that anything is possible with Him. And then if we just surrender to Him, and He will take care of us. If we have this firm faith, then the result is not just we want to get out of these problems. Actually, we get the eternal, blissful, ever-growing happiness in the spiritual world by going back to Godhead in the service of Krishna. So, bhakti is not just getting rid of problems, but actually getting to the positive spiritual bliss in the association of Krishna, in the service of Krishna. So, this point we'll discuss briefly. Of course, this is a broad topic. We'll highlight some topics, some essences again in this topic. So, basically, I was trying to highlight what does this mean to have firm faith in Lord as Supreme. That's what I was trying to address here. Some of the points here. Basically, when we understand that Krishna is Supreme, one of the important things is that I'm not alone. Krishna is behind me. Whole disciple succession is behind me. That means my power includes their power also. All the disciple succession's power, all the Krishna's power also. And how do we access that power? When we pray to Krishna, and when we pray to our acharyas, when say, Krishna, please help me, Prabhupada, please help me, Guru Maharaj, please help me. Like that, when we pray to them, then we can access that power. But it's our power only, because when we pray, they are supporting us. Nitai Sevan Mataji gives a nice example in this regard. One young boy, one young child, son of a father, he was not able to lift something very, very heavy. So father is asking, use all your power to lift it like that. Then he's saying, I used everything I could, but I cannot lift it. Then father describes, actually, you could have asked me my help. I'm also part of your power. So if you ask me, then I can help you. So then he helped the son to lift it. So that's how we also should not forget the power we have from the whole disciple association, our acharyas and Krishna. So we are not alone. That is the beauty of Bhakti Yoga process. Unlike Jnana Yoga process, unlike Dhyana Yoga process, where they depend on their own power, which is very, very limited, we know from our personal example. But if you depend on Krishna, he can make anything happen. I may not able to sing, but I can sing with Krishna's power. I may not able to speak, but Krishna can give me power to sing, power to speak. I may not be able to walk, but Krishna can give me power to walk, like that. So that's the essence of this whole section. Now, some of the key things to contemplate on and aspire for these realizations in our bhakti life. That is what I'm sharing, some of them. That Supreme Lord can do anything. Supreme Lord is supreme means he can do anything and everything. Everything is in his control. Sometimes we devotees may think, oh my God, that devotee is so knowledgeable. He can grow in bhakti. That devotee is so good at book distribution. He can grow in bhakti. That devotee is so good in devotions or deity worship. He can grow in bhakti. But I don't know deity worship. I don't know book distribution. I don't have shastric knowledge. I don't have interest in chanting. How will I grow in bhakti? We need to understand Krishna is so merciful. Each of us can grow in bhakti. Because if Krishna wants to give us bhakti, he will help us in every possible way to get out of there. That is the first point. Next thing is, how can he help me? He can help me in bhakti by giving the direction. Again, the direction can be through multiple ways. Through my friend, through my other devotees, through my guru, through other sadhus, through shastra. He can give direction in different ways. And he gives me ability to execute. That means he will give me ability to chant properly. As long as I have desire to chant properly, he will give me ability to chant properly, like that. And he will give me mercy so that I can grow in my relationship with him. And Why will he want to do that? All these things because he loves me, because he's my best well-wisher. That's why he will do that for sure. This also when we need to cultivate and develop these relations. So we'll always be favorably disposed towards Krishna and we'll eagerly and we're always hopeful in devotion service to perform devotion, more and more devotion service because we understand Krishna is there with us. He will help us. And when we contemplate like this in our life, what is happening, we'll personally realize from our own examples, not by hearing from somebody, not by reading from scripture only. That's also important to develop faith. But the faith will come by observing our own life in devotion service. How when we started chanting, what miracles happened, how our life is changing towards going to Krishna like that. Then we also understand from scriptures that Krishna is grateful for any service we offer. Like Srila Prabhupada used to say that when somebody comes to the temple and he turns one screw, Krishna will remember and he will never, it is permanent bank account and spiritual bank account like that. Similarly, we hear from Ajamila pastime descriptions also. When somebody chants his holy name, Krishna will think, oh, he chanted my holy name. It's my duty to take care of him. Let me go. Like that. So he is ever grateful. Is one of the qualities of Krishna is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, our nectar devotion, is grateful, Kritagna. And is very personal. He's not like he doesn't have any emotions and feelings. When we are suffering, he's feeling bad for us. He wants us to be happy. So it's personal. And is eagerly looking forward to me, engaging in his pure devotion service. For because he's lacking something? No. For my own benefit, he's eagerly looking forward. In fact, in Bhagavatam, we hear about Gopakumara pastime. The ending of the pastime is very sweet. I did not read the book myself. I know many of you studied nicely in the Bhakti Sanga Japa call some time ago. It's a very nice pastime. Ending of the pastime is Krishna is eagerly waiting for Gopakumar and he embraces him and he tells him, oh Gopakumar, I've been waiting for you for so many lifetimes. I gave this indication to you to come to me. I gave this indication for you to take up devotion service. I finally came like a guru to you. I gave you mantra to chant. I helped you in so many ways. I was eagerly waiting for you. I'm so happy you came like that. That's how Krishna receives us. So each of us has an individual relationship, personal relationship with Krishna. And that too, Krishna is hankering for one special quality of service that each of us have, it seems. That means it's not like, oh, so many few devotees are there, they're serving Krishna anyway. Why does he care about me? Not like that. One special aspect of relationship, we and Supreme Lord cherish with each other. Thus Krishna is eagerly waiting for us for that. And then we can understand this is an important principle that will come out in the next slides also, that whatever ability we have currently, I can only chant one round, I'll chant that nicely. I can only distribute one book a day, I'll distribute that one book a day nicely. I can only offer flowers to Krishna, I cannot do full arti, I will do that much. Whatever we can do now, we do happily with love and devotion. Whatever we can, little love and devotion we have to Krishna, that only Krishna is looking for, not some big things like that. That will help receive Krishna's mercy. So now and then other thing is when we're reading Bhagavatam, when we're hearing classes, we can understand, oh, he's helping that devotee, he's helping Ajamila, oh, he's helping Prahlad Maharaj, he's helping Dhruv Maharaj, so he helped me also. We need to develop that faith. So those are few points. I think another 10 minutes is there. So I'll cover a few more angles. Obviously, this topic is very broad. We'll cover a few of the angles, whatever we can. So going to the same, we're continuing on the same theme. But you see, Prabhupada is saying we should surrender to Krishna. What does this surrender mean? Of course, that in itself is a class and seminar probably, but few aspects. So here, surrender is not that, oh my, like when somebody is putting gun at my chest or body and say, you surrender, otherwise I'll kill you. So then we can't do anything because he has a gun. I need to give up. That is a negative connotation. But here the surrender is as an expression of our love and affection. not out of any frustration or I cannot do anything, so I need to surrender to Krishna. Not like that. Out of love and affection, we surrender to Krishna. How does it come? Like we discussed earlier, when we contemplate in our life, when we contemplate devotees, few acharyas' lives, and we see examples in Bhagavatam, then we see, wow, Krishna is so nice. I want to serve him like that. Then we'll surrender like that, lovingly and affectionately. So His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu describes surrender can be seen in 3 levels from Bhagavad Gita explanations he talks about. Of course, he gives a whole class on this topic, but I'm giving the essence for you. So, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, when Arjuna becomes disciple of Krishna and say, I surrender to you. Now, please remove my doubts. I don't know what to do. I don't know to fight in the war or not fight in the war. Please help me. So when he surrendered like that to Krishna, that's the first level of surrender. That means he's surrendering in prayer and submission to get out of the ignorance that is in, to get the knowledge to do the right thing. So he's turning towards Krishna in prayer and submission. That is the first level of surrender. Yeah. So this is an important aspect because some of us, even though we're struggling so much in devotion service, we don't want to go to senior devotee. Oh, I know you've been practicing for several years. I see you are happy in devotion service. Can you please tell me I'm struggling? I don't know how to get up early. I can't get up before 7 o'clock. Can you please tell me some idea? So every time I see a devotee, oh, I see, oh, this guy is bad. I see only negative things. What can I do to see the positive in devotees? Can you please tell me? That mood should come for us. That is what is turning towards Krishna and his representatives. That is the first level of surrender. Next level of surrender is overcoming our illusion. That means we know the right thing, but we may not be able to do that right thing. So then also we need to surrender to Krishna. For example, I know getting up late in the morning is getting up early in the morning is good, but I can't get up. Then I can't get up early and chant. Then what will help me to get beyond that my inability to do so? Surrendering to Krishna, praying to Krishna, seeking help of senior devotees, Guru and Sadhu. Then by the power of big bhakti, we can overcome our limitations. That is the other point. Basically, by doing chanting, hearing nicely, and reading scriptures, and doing deity worship like this, then we'll get strength beyond our strength that we can imagine. We get the spiritual strength, so we can overcome our limitations. The third level surrender is, we know sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja, right? Aham tam sarvapapajyo mokshayishyami masuchaha. That's the highest level of surrender, which is doing Lord Krishna's will. So that means this. Let me see. We have 8 minutes. That's good. Yeah, we can discuss more about this also. Basically, this is talking about doing Lord Krishna's will. So that means, remember we talked about whatever gifts I have currently, that I use in serving Krishna. Whatever capacity I have currently, I use it in serving Krishna, in a mode of service to him. And by that, I'll have contentment or satisfaction. Yeah, we'll discuss this a little bit more elaborately in the coming slide. I want to briefly mention, because whenever surrender word comes, all devotees remember this verse, because this is one of the key verse that Bhakti Vinod Thakur highlights, and he gave so many bhajans also on Sharanagati. This highlights the sweetness of surrender. Anukulasya sankalpa, pratikulasya varjanam, rakshishyati iti vishvaso, goptritve varnam tata, atmanikshepa karpanye, sadvida saranagatihi. We don't have so much time to discuss everything, but I want to highlight that these are the 6 limbs of surrender. The first 2 are very, very important for us to focus on, which is whenever we're making decisions of thoughts, activities, or service that we're doing, is this favorable to Krishna service? Then I will take it up. Is it not favorable to Krishna service? I don't want it. Like that. Acceptance and rejection. From this, everything else will follow. Like Krishna, how Krishna will protect me, how Krishna is maintaining me, how we can do a full surrender like Bali Maharaj, and we can be situated in humility, that I am small, Krishna is big, but Krishna will help me. I am related to, even though I am small, I am related to Krishna, I am part and parcel of Krishna, so Krishna will take care of me, like that. I wanted to focus on this aspect, given the few minutes that we have. So this is the, remember I talked about 3 levels of surrender. First is overcoming of ignorance. When we don't know what to do, we surrender to Krishna in prayer and submission. Then when we know what to do, but we are not able to do, we surrender to Krishna, pray to him, seek his help, seek help of Guru and Sadhu. That's second level of surrender. The third is doing Krishna's will according to our capacity, right? This is talking about doing Krishna's will. Remember, Prabhupada quotes this phrase from the 18th chapter, 46th verse. This verse, right? That verse goes like this. Yata pravritir bhutanam ena sarvam idam tatam swakarmanatam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. That is the highlight we are going to do. So basically, we need to understand who we are. That means not only understand by proper introspection, not only understand that I'm a soul, part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual sense, but also because I'm in this body currently, because I'm given this material mind currently. What are the inclinations of my body and mind currently? What are the best strengths I have? What are the talents I have? Those I need to understand as Krishna's gifts to me. So now when somebody gives gift, the best use of the gift is we utilize it properly. Similarly, Krishna gave us this body and mind. So we utilize them along with the resources that we have in Krishna's service nicely. That's how we can use the gift that Krishna has given, especially this human form of life, which is very valuable. So now that is the point, that is the third level of surrender we talked about. We work with our talents, we joyfully, in the mood of service to Krishna, we work. So now somebody may ask, I know how to work, but I don't know how to do it in the mood of service to Krishna. That is where our devotion service process is so beautiful. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to know anything. Just follow the process that Prabhupada and our acharyas gave us by chanting, hearing, reading, doing devotion service like that, by serving devotees. Actually, I'm getting purified day by day, and my experience, realizations will come. And then I'll be situated in mood of service to Krishna. And by such surrender, what happens is I can make lasting contributions to the world and get satisfaction right now here. And also, it helps us to grow closer to Krishna, and we are able to be an instrument in others' life to go closer to Krishna also. I have more things, but I wanted to pause here in case somebody has any comments or questions. So I don't want to take up all the time. But hopefully you got the essence that Srila Prabhupada is encouraging us, that understand that we are spirit soul and not this body. Understand that whatever we do is very important. And so how to do, learn from instructions, and to get the power to do, we need to take shelter of devotion service process and our acharyas and Krishna, and then engage in bhakti nicely so that we can achieve perfection. If there are any comments or questions, please feel free to go ahead. If there are corrections also, kindly correct. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this very, very beautiful class. It was very nice that with the presentation we were able to get into the topic very nicely. Thank you, Prabhuji, for this wonderful effort. There are some hand raised, Prabhuji. I request Preeti Vilasni Mataji. You can ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Sundaranand Prabhu. It was such a pleasure to hear from you. Very thorough, Prabhu, right from the building the context to the canto to the chapter, and then going through this verse so much in detail. Something I learned today as I was listening to you and taking notes. It was very beautiful to understand that when you seek shelter, Krishna will take care, because he's actually taking care of everyone. Like one of the verses said, he is taking care of everybody. So all that we have to do is just seek that shelter. And we have that if we have some faith, Krishna will surely empower us. The levels of surrender was very interesting. I was seeing the flow chart as well. You have taken so much efforts to put it together, the 3 levels of surrender. And finally, when you were telling, even if I'm very small, sometimes we feel, oh, I'm not capable of doing this, I'm not capable of doing that. I'd rather keep away from this service. But then, very nicely, you said, even if we are small, we are related to Krishna. Krishna's power will be there. It will be there when you seek and when you ask for help. So, Krishna will empower. So, these are some things that I was pondering on as you were talking, which is very true. And oftentimes, we give up very easily. But this was such a hopeful class to have that faith that, yes, Krishna is there for each one of us. And each one of us have something to give Krishna, right? And you are telling everybody is unique. We have something that Krishna wants, or Krishna doesn't want anything, but something that we can offer by his mercy, of course, not by our own endeavor. The beauty of the process of bhakti also is so nice, the way you were telling. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Very inspiring class. It felt very good to hear this in the morning. Thank you for your association. And I pray that we can hear more from you, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, because you have so much taste for the scripture. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for emphasizing. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for that wonderful comment. And there is one more comment in the chat box I would like to read, Prabhuji. Lalitangi Radha Mataji says, wonderful presentation and the class with practical realization. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
I request if devotees, they have any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Sundaranand Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a beautiful class. As Priti Vilasni Mataji said, you have went through the previous background where we are, and then you talked about how the body and soul and everything detailedly explained, Prabhuji, and how we have to surrender and always depend on the Supreme Father instead of trying it from our own endeavor. It's very important that we take his help and finish our task. He's providing the service opportunity. At the same time, he is giving the energy and everything he is doing. The only thing is we need to be in that spot. That we have to understand. From your class, I could clearly get that understanding, Prabhuji, that we should always completely surrender on to the Supreme Lord and just do whatever is coming on our pathway. We cannot say that this is not my choice. I can't do this service or I can do this service. It's not like that. Just the opportunity came because Krishna wanted us to do it. So we need to take it up and do it. Thank you, Prabhu. And the way you have highlighted the translation with the colors so that we know exactly how we are taking different bodies according to the present body, like how whatever actions we are doing on base of that, we will get the next body. So we can clearly understand that from your translation, Prabhuji, that you have highlighted. Thank you, Prabhu, for such a beautiful, beautiful class. Very, very grateful to you for coming on the call, and thank you for all the services to the Bhakti Sangha that you do. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for that wonderful comment. Prabhuji, we were discussing that like whatever comes, whether we shouldn't think too much, that we should take it as Krishna's thing and take up the seva to our extent. My other end of my thought is that if sometimes we feel more responsible, more dedicated to Prabhupada's mission, and sometimes we try to involve in things that it doesn't have not at come to us. So how should we think about it? Like because we have that feeling of service or compassion, we try to go one step ahead and get into the service. So in that, is there any caution to be taken, or is there any scale?
Okay. It's a broad topic, Mataji, but I'll briefly share some comments. Let me confirm my understanding of the question. So your question is, with the eagerness of doing service, if you're too eager to take up services, how do we take it in the right mode? Is that your question, Mataji?
Like take up some initiative, sevas ourselves, keeping in mind to serve the mission. Like that, taking initiative from ourselves,
Or how
not
do
someone
we?
has requested. Yeah.
Or how do we improve our initiative to take up services?
No, when that initiative thought comes, should we go ahead or not? Like, what is the scale?
Wonderful.
See, no
Okay.
one came and asked me to do some seva,
Yes,
but
yes.
I feel that let me do this. Should I take that initiative? Should I attend those thoughts?
Very nice, practical question. Yes. Yeah, that's where the guidance of our mentor and guru also comes into picture. For me, the guidance I received, which was practical for me, is like this. When we get some new idea of a service, or when somebody gives a new service, how do you evaluate? Do I take up this service or not? That's the important principle we need to learn. The important principle is, what is my goal in life? And what are my 10-year goals in life? Or what are my 20-year goals in life? That we need to be clear. Then, when we have that vision for myself and my goals are clear, then this service, that idea I'm getting, this service offer I'm getting, I will evaluate in terms of my goals and vision, number one. Number two, so that is clear. That is one decision box. Next thing is it helping me to get more inspired in devotional service and more go closer to Krishna, or is it taking me away from the main goal that I need right now? Actually, the service may be so wonderful, but right now I need to chant nicely. So if I don't chant nicely, I cannot do the service nicely. So then we need to evaluate like that. Is that service helping me, or is it hurting my sadhana, for example? That's the second aspect. So that means primarily aligning with our goals and vision. Secondly, is that helping or hurting other things that I already have on my plate? Primary thing being health, sadhana, family, and other services that I already taken up. You should not hurt them. Then we can take up that service. So these are the two broad things I can think about. But more can be spoken. But whenever we have doubts on this, we can always consult our mentors and Guru Sadhu Mataji like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. These two criteria was really wonderful. That really helps, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Most welcome, Mataji.
Prabhuji, there are some comments in the chat box I would like to read. Chaya Mataji says, like, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the very instructive and wonderful class. Harita Mataji says that a very beautiful presentation, Prabhuji. It is very easy to understand. Thanks a lot for such awesome class and association.
Thank you. Yeah, whatever I learned is from other devotees only. I didn't know who is Krishna. I didn't know what is Bhakti. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu, there are no hand raised or questions.
Krishna.
Okay, we can stop. Yeah,
Sure.
call it.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. I always love how you go back and you recap, and this is a conversation within a conversation within a conversation, and so you remind us of what the scenario is. And thank you for the flowcharts and wonderful presentation. It's very clear and easy to understand. Prabhuji, if possible, please share the slides.
Sure.
And the question was so apt for you itself, Prabhuji, because I was thinking of how, I mean, nobody actually came, nobody asked, at least I did not know of anyone asking anybody in the group to help take on the service, but you came up with the idea of how to put together the Bhagavatam summaries, how to assign the speakers, and it's going really smooth thanks to your effort, Prabhuji. So thank you for taking up that initiative. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, I was only inspired by seeing Prithvilas Mataji, how she's inspired over Srimad Bhagavatam, how she wants that we all release Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why I was trying to assist Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhuji, there is one hand raise. You have time, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. As long as you're okay for the Vrajamandal Parikrama to start, right? I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, Shri Ishopanishad Mataji, please ask your question.
Jai Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, to all the wonderful, wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Look, I just wanted to say thank you very much for sharing that in the text, in the first line and the last line of the purport, how it is so very relevant. So thank you for that. That made me go back and reflect on in the first line of this purport, it says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in my own words, because I'm not right in front of it, is not responsible for our accepting different bodies. And, you know, we have to be, it's according to our condition. What I'm trying to say is that, wow, we don't really know how many bodies we've had. So from the very first, should we be concerned about the very first, or should we just be concerned about right now? I don't know if I'm asking the question correctly, but that just made me think, wow, how many bodies have I had?
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely overwhelming to think about how many bodies we had before. I don't know what all I did. I don't know. That's even more overwhelming, right? Yeah. Yes, Mate. Yeah, definitely. So when we get into that, we use the same principle, Mate. Anukulasya, remember surrendering, Anukulasya Sankalpya, Pratikulasya Varjanam. That means whatever is acceptable for devotion service, I take it up. Whatever is not favorable for devotion service, I don't take it up. This includes thoughts also. My thinking about, oh my God, how much I went through, oh my God, how many lives is that helping my devotion service? No. But it's helping in my devotion service if I accept a lesson from it. Oh my God, that means I need to act right now properly. As long as we take that much lesson, we move on. Then we take up devotion service so sincerely. When we get into that heart, oh my God, I wasted so much time in so many lives. Now we'll become more and more sincere and serious to take up this devotion service. Actually, one more thing that impels me, that I heard from one devotee long time ago, which is very useful for me especially, is that Krishna, whatever devotion service we do, it will stay with us for eternally. That is number one. Very good point for us to understand. Inspiration. However, the next life, I will start from there only. But will I take up devotion service? How seriously I take up devotion service next life is depend on me, not Krishna. That means I need to be careful. I don't know what my mind will tell next life. So now I need to do what? Now at least I understood the value of devotion service. Let me do it nicely now. Then I'll progress as much as I can now closer to Krishna. Then next life, there's a better opportunity, better chances for me to attract to devotion service and take up devotion service strongly also next life again. That is the impetus we can cultivate for doing what we can do right now, Mate. Makes sense?
Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Yes, and in reference to what you just said, it says in that last line that the spirit soul does not actually mix with the body, but is subjugated by the particular modes of nature, which he is sinfully associated with. Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mate. Hare Krishna, Mate.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, there are a few more comments in the chat box. Sindhu Mataji says, very informative and thought-provoking, excellent presentation. Thank you so much for your all effort to help all of us understand and serve Krishna in our own capacity. Thank you, Prabhuji. And next, Vrinda Gopika Mataji says, thank you. Inspiring class. Thank you so much on behalf of Bhakti Sanga. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji, for this wonderful effort and your valuable time and association. We look forward for your association in the future also. So let us pay our obeisances to Prabhuji and all the Vaishnavas in the call. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kripasindhubhyev cha
patitanam
patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
ki jai.
Ananta Koti ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai,
Bhagavatam ki jai. Sundaranand Prabhuji ki jai.